This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside our good friend Chris Allman here, who we might give a nom de plume to, so you can, I don't want to tell people, so you can operate in the shadows.
Yeah. Feels nice to be in the guest co-hosting lead. I'm 2-1 on Royden now.
Yeah. Here's the deal. Before the show, we get to talk about things, and you get to learn fun facts from me.
Yeah.
Which you did not know that Conway Twitty's name is not Conway Twitty.
No, that'll be the thing.
I don't know what his real name was. I just threw out a fake one, but.
Yeah, when I go to bed tonight and my wife is like, hey, how was your day? I'm definitely going to lead with the Conway Twitty fact.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about work. I'm not going to talk about really anything else we talked about on the show.
Is she a fan?
She will be.
She will be. 1970s country.
She will be by the time
Conway
I'm done
Twitty.
Telling her about Conway Twitty's origin story.
1970s variety show host, Conway Twitty. Yeah. So, but yeah, those are the things you find out before the show.
Yeah.
Before we get into talking about college football and other frivolities of the world.
Yeah.
But today I kind of wanted to focus in on, because unfortunately there's not realignment news for us to like go and fish for views on today.
Yeah.
So we have to drill down into like some topics. There might be realignment news coming in the future.
Sure.
It's a really like sad state of affairs though when you look at, okay, UNC had a tragedy shooting that postponed it. There's a hurricane in Florida right now. That postponed it. There's college football playoff meetings going on right now, which obviously Jim Phillips has to be more focused on that.
Sure, yeah.
To make sure that the ACC doesn't get left out.
Right.
I'm not left out, but, you know, they have every conference gets their fair shake in this.
Yeah.
And what they're going to do with the Pac-12. And that may be something we talk about a little bit later in the show, even though nothing yet has really come out of that. It just started today. But I did want to talk about, there are a lot of, this new coaches week one debuts, Matt Rule, Deion Sanders, guys around the country that have their debuts. And some of them might not even be like head coaches. Bobby Petrino makes his debut as the OC at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Garrett Riley as the OC at Clemson in a move. I think we talked about it a little bit the other day about Dabo kind of changing.
Going outside the family a little bit.
Yeah, going outside the family. So their debuts this weekend. I'm curious, Chris, and I'll give mine after you give yours, but who do you think hits the ground running the fastest of the new head coaches?
Well, if you're going to bet the chalk, you're probably going to say Luke Fickell, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's taken over it's a top-tier Big Ten program, probably top 4, right?
And look, their worst season that got the coach fired was not bad by many stretches of like other teams would be like, oh, you had a 1-5-7 year and you fired the coach? Huh.
Yeah.
We have many 5-7 years.
Sure, yeah. 5-7 would be an upgrade for some. I think if you're betting the chalk, you're going to say Luke Fickell because of the guy can coach. He's moving into an established program that probably just needs that extra little bit of juice. He's got Tanner Mordecai playing quarterback for him. So I think the chalk says that. I think that all things considered, I think Hugh Freeze is probably going to do well at Ole Miss, until he, God bless him, makes a mistake in his coaching.
Well, he's at Auburn. He was at Ole Miss.
I'm sorry, he's at Auburn.
But Hugh Freeze's problem is probably not Hugh Freeze anymore. His bigger problem is Auburn and their little brother syndrome that is out of control. Yeah,
but Hugh Freeze also does seem to find a way to make himself a little bit of an issue.
Yeah.
So I think as far as like home runs, hitting it out of the park right off the bat, I don't think Coach Rule, I'm not expecting, we know his track record a little bit is take some time and make it big.
Look, at Baylor, he had 1.5 years of bad.
Yeah.
1.5 years of bad to come back from.
Yeah.
Because that team was rolling along really well. Temple, he had a long time of bad to build.
Yes.
This is actually more akin to Temple than it is to Baylor when he took over.
Sure, yeah. Which is weird to say.
Yeah. But yeah, because Nebraska's got 20 years of walking in the wilderness, essentially.
Yes. So actually, I hear people say that sometimes. Do we count some of those Bo Pelini years as walking in the wilderness? I know they weren't the Tom Osborne years.
No, but like they weren't able to sustain that.
Sure,
They'd have a good year, and then they wouldn't again,
right.
As where, Tom Osborne and even Frank Solich were sustained. Like, they fired Frank Solich with 9 wins.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've ever, like, if you ask them in their heart of hearts, especially the people who are still around that made that decision, they're like, that was probably a bad move.
Yeah.
Because they lost their soul.
Yes. They're 20 years removed from, what are they, 22 probably, from that Rose Bowl where Miami just sent them back to the dark ages, how bad they beat them. So, yeah, they're 20 years removed from that. I think there's probably, I don't think expectation is the right word for Deion at Colorado. I think there's a tremendous amount of interest, but I'm not sitting there thinking.
There's hype.
Yeah, there's hype. I'm not sitting there thinking, I cannot wait to watch this Colorado TCU game to see how good Colorado is. That's just not, it's just not my thought.
I'm curious to see how congealed they are.
Right.
Because when you've got 51 new players, look, Baylor's going to see a little bit of this weekend when they play Texas State. They've got like 48, 55, something like that, new players on their roster that G.J. Kinney brought in.
Right.
And while those players might be better, like, it stands to reason that the players that Deion brought in Colorado or the players that G.J. Kinney brings in at Texas State or anybody who's got a big, roster flip at a school who was wildly unsuccessul before, those players will be better. But are they good together yet? Because that's what really takes time.
Yeah, I think that is college football, college sports in a nutshell, right? Like, you can have all the stars you want in your recruiting class, but are these guys good together? I mean, case in point, Coach Drew brings in 5 stars like crazy, but he had that one team that was really good together, won a national championship.
And they transferred in at the same time. They had this, I do think that the sit-out rule helped them out. Like, that was before, like, those guys sitting out and just having, like, you can't play in games, so you have to create your own fun.
Right.
Which for Davion Mitchell and Jared Butler was, we're just going to be in the gym getting insanely good at basketball. And then sometimes all the transfers don't really work. Like, you can be good but not great. Look at Chris Beard year 1 at Texas.
Yeah.
That team was, they were tough to beat, but I don't think they really scared anybody because, like, all the parts didn't fit the whole. And I think that's what's going to you're going to see at some of these schools. Like, Matt Rule has a ton of transfers at Nebraska.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be better than they were a year ago because they're going to have more of a defined, policy than they did. And they're going to know, like, they knew last year Scott Frost on the way out.
Right.
Colorado was listless last year. So those schools will be better, but how much kind of depends on what you realistically expect of what is better.
Yeah. I think, so you brought up Coach Kinney at Texas State. I mean, I'm not super fluent in all things Texas State Bobcat, but I mean, there's a lot riding on him. One really, really good year at Incarnate Word, and then he gets this Texas State job. And so, Texas State's not playing the 2:30 game on CBS, but it's definitely an intriguing game just to see, are they going to score 53 points a game like he did last year?
How fast does it happen? And when you're playing a team like Baylor, which again, there's another coach debut, and Matt Pallage is the defensive coordinator at Baylor.
Right.
How quickly can he get a Dave Aranda coach defensive team back to looking like that? Because last year they just didn't.
No, they didn't.
They didn't have that same attitude. And what I will say that I think is going to have a bad matchup for Baylor in particular in that game is their probably weakest point of their whole team is going to be their secondary until they find some guys. And G.J. Kinney's going to throw the ball 50 times.
Yeah, he's going to wing it.
So those guys without experience are going to, like, if you've never had snaps, you're about to get 50 snaps for sure, where you're going to have effort in that. So those things are all interesting to me as you look into week 1 of, debuts. Like, can Matt Rule, I think this is really interesting, can he match the physicality of PJ Fleck? Because PJ Fleck coaches the kind of physical football that Matt Rule really likes.
Yeah, he wants to play.
He wants to do that.
Yeah. And
first game right out of the bat, he's going to get a team that is going to block and tackle really well. They're not going to be high flying on offense. They're not going to be what Wisconsin he's going to see later in the year. They're not going to be that.
Right.
But they are going to make sure you were there playing them.
What is there can't be more than 7 or 8 people who watched Coach Rule closer than you guys did. And so him and expectations and tendencies. What does your gut tell you about week 1 or year 1 with him there?
I think year 1's going to be interesting. I think that fans need to look at everywhere he was year 1. He's willing to take a bath on some things. Like really,
Yeah.
All right, look, we're gonna drain this out here.
Yeah. And I still know Baylor fans that are bitter about that. I know
Yeah.
Baylor fans that think that was unnecessary. I don't necessarily agree with them.
Oh, I can tell you, like, I understand that there's sometimes there's opinions that you have that's like your opinion, man.
Yeah.
That's not. I can tell you it was
Big
absolutely.
Lebowski, is that what that was? Okay.
That was absolutely necessary because, and I dealt with this at the time. So when he took over at Baylor, I remember getting callers like, "Well, the cupboard's not bare," and I'm like, "Buddy, the cupboard is bare.
Yeah.
The recruiting class that he would have had is one guy.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that one guy was, now there were other guys in it, Charlie Brewer and all that, but the recruiting class he was supposed to be able to say, hey, I know what all these guys are, was really one guy when he got there, and that was Jalen Petrie.
Yeah.
Now, that turned out to be a great guy.
Yeah, it did.
But even still, I remember thinking, I don't know if Jalen Petrie knows what's going on here. I was kind of wondering, because we had a recruit on that they had the second commit they had. This guy committed to Baylor, and I asked him, I said, I'm curious as to why you committed here, just knowing what's going on with the coaching staff. And we knew that there was and he said, well, the coaching staff is the reason I did it. And I was like, Soki and I had this look on each other's face. We're like, I didn't want to tell him, they're all leaving, right?
Yeah.
They're not very quiet about, or they're not hiding how they feel about how this all went down.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be here.
Yeah.
Baylor's not going to bring them back, so.
I feel like I derailed you. So Coach Rule's first year.
Anyway, but so all those things happened, right? All those things happened, and they had to clean out some guys that might have been good players in the previous system, but also it's about attitude, and, he had to let some guys go. And then they were also just Art Briles even knew that his offensive line was going to be lacking that year.
Right.
He had talked about it kind of publicly. Of this is what we're really worried about because we don't have a lot of experience here. Mm-hmm. And then when you walk in the first day, he had 6 scholarship offensive linemen and 2 walk-ons. There were 8 guys in the room. They didn't even have to go, hey, the extra guys stand up in the back. They had chairs for everyone. Everybody could put their feet up on a chair.
That's a bad sign about your roster when you can say chairs for everyone.
Yeah. Matt Rule tells the story of he said, all right, well, I guess you guys are running a little bit early. That's fine. I like that. When are the rest of guys going to get here? And they're like, this is it. There's not. Yeah. We're all here right now.
Yeah.
And so they had to really drill down on that. That might happen a little bit at Nebraska. Now, granted, he's got the transfer portal that makes it a whole lot easier for him to have warm bodies in a room.
Yeah.
But whether those warm bodies or not are ready to go.
Yeah.
That remains to be seen. And then you have to build something. I think he's in a situation where Trev Alberts knows that I've got to back off this guy for a little while and let him build a culture.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's what was going on at Nebraska before. Steve Peterson came in as the AD, and he's the one who fired Frank Solich, hired Bill Callahan, and then they never really got on the right track from that point on because they lost their soul.
Yeah.
And they lost who they were as Nebraska football.
Right.
And so that's what he has to let Matt Rule build back is that attitude and the culture, which every time they were hiring somebody, they were like, well, this might reboot the culture. And Pelini might be the culture. Well, it can't be Pelini. It's going to be Mike Riley. Pelini was too harsh. We're going to get Mike Riley, who's a little bit more relaxed. And then they kind of roll through this, and then they go, okay, well, we're going to go to get Scott Frost because he's one of our great players. He's a hot coach right now. He knows Osborne. This will work. This will work. And then Scott Frost was not ready for that.
No.
Scott Frost, and I'll tell you, I think Scott Frost might be one of those guys who gets a head coaching job 5 years from now, and people are like, oh, why wasn't he that good at Nebraska? Well, now he's ready for it.
Yeah.
Now he knows.
Sure. When I was thinking about this, which coach is set up for the best run, which coach is going to make the biggest splash. I also got to think about, relatively speaking, what is success for them? You take Luke Fickell. The expectation there is that I think Wisconsin fans and supporters are going to expect him to win the Big Ten, make the playoff, and eventually compete for a national championship. But you take someone like Jamie Chadwell, right, who was really good at Coastal. Mm-hmm. Now he's at Liberty. Does he win 10 games, 2 or 3 years so that he can go get his next job? I think run is relative. Which one's going to have the most success is relative in this conversation.
I can dog on Liberty for a great many things. that have nothing to do with their sports.
Sure.
But I know Ian McCaw, the athletic director there. He was here before, and that's a great hire that he made, Jamie Chadwell.
Yeah.
Great hire. I think it's unfortunate that no one else was smart enough to hire Jamie Chadwell at a bigger school.
Did his name come up as a serious candidate at other big schools?
I think there might be this thought in him of like, well, it's cute. He did it at Coastal Carolina. But I think good coaches are good coaches. I think you need to look no further than Kalen DeBoer, who's at Washington right now.
Sure, yeah.
You look at Lance Leipold.
Yeah.
You know, how long do you have to just – I think you get real myopic with sometimes hiring. Well, this guy has to do this because you have to sell things to people. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you need to just go, okay, this is the guy.
Yeah. This
is the success he's had. We're going to give him the resources – Chris Kleiman.
I was about to use Chris Kleiman as an example.
Chris Kleiman is a great example. I don't think whatever big school in Texas hires Jeff Traylor away from UTSA when that is, will not have as much of a sell.
Right.
But that is something I would have been like, if I were A&M or Texas and I had fired my coach 1 year into Jeff Traylor at UTSA, I would have been comfortable saying like, no, this is the guy.
Really?
Yeah. No, this is the guy.
Yeah.
He understands how it works here, and with resources, he can really be something.
Yeah. I got to thinking about that. I got to thinking about what is Auburn's expectation, and it sounds like Auburn's expectation is almost going to be impossible to meet.
Well, they have unreasonable standards anyway.
Right.
Like, and it's not. And Auburn can be. I mean, look, they've had Heisman Trophy winners. They've won national title. You know, they've had a lot of great things happen at Auburn. Auburn's problem is they need to stop comparing themselves only to Alabama, because Alabama has had two of the 5 greatest coaches and maybe the 2 best coaches of all time have been there.
Right.
Nobody else can really say that. Like, you know. That's like in the top. Like nobody else can say they have 1 and 2 in Saban and Bear Bryant.
Yeah,
like now you can say you had 2 great coaches. You know, Ohio State's had several.
Sure,
right?
Darryl Royal and Mac Brown.
Yeah, Darryl Royal and Mac Brown.
Yeah.
Look, Urban Meyer and Steve Spurrier both were at Florida.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Urban Meyer is in that Venn diagram as well of successful coaches. Michigan had Lloyd Carr and Bo Schembechler. Like you've all had there's programs that have 2 great coaches, but not the 2 best at what they did during their eras.
Sure, yeah.
That redefined how everybody does everything.
Yeah.
Nick Saban and Bear Bryant. So stop trying to be Alabama.
Yes.
Like you can't be Alabama. And you can't be Alabama. And if you ever are equal to them, it's going to take 100 years.
Yeah.
So don't do that. Just be Auburn and be good, and then eventually you'll start beating them more often than you were, but you're still not going to be Alabama.
So this is a genuine question. It's not like a rile up Paul question. There was maybe a short window in the 80s where Florida State was inferior to Miami, right?
Yeah, no, there was a.
But then, they get over the hump in 93. Bobby Bowden wins a national title, team of the 90s. Did Florida State ever have the inferiority complex, or was their confidence well beyond that?
Part of that was because Bowden built the program.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really an inferiority complex. It was they were really nothing for, from the time they became a co-ed school.
Yeah.
Outside of a couple things. Fred Biletnikoff was there. And like, is 70s movie star Burt Reynolds an alum? What do you know? Spencer for Hire, Robert Urich. Those were the things that Florida State really had. Like,
Ron Simmons.
Yeah, Ron. Well, that was a Bowden era guy.
That's right.
But yeah. So
I just didn't want to miss a chance to work in a pro wrestler.
We got Farouk. Yeah, we got Farouk. Okay. We're cool. So when people ask me who my favorite wrestler is, it will always be him.
It's always going to be Ron Simmons.
It's always going to be him.
Sure.
I know it's been a long time since he's actually
done
anything, but
still your guy.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So, but I think he built the attitude. So the inferiority complex wasn't really there because Florida had never really they hadn't won a national title either.
Right.
And Florida State won before they did. Miami, here's the crazy thing about Miami. They and Florida State were kind of in the same boat of building their program at the same time.
Yeah.
Schnellenberger just did it so ridiculously fast.
Super fast.
Faster
than he thought he would. No matter what the doc tells us, Schnellenberger's plan wasn't to win the 83 national title.
Yeah, worked so well.
Yeah.
And then it just created a monster there.
Right.
And look, I don't mean to say greatly. It was just this behemoth for 20 years that they had at Miami. Occasional dips, but like the just behemoth that they were, and through several coaches. But Erickson and Jimmy Johnson, Erickson, Butch Davis, Larry Coker, all had really good runs there. But
I never got the impression that Florida State had that.
It was more about like let's just the three of them in egos and who's the best and all this. Florida State was well behind and still probably is in the rivalry against Florida because for years Florida was an actual football school and they had Steve Spurrier won the Heisman Trophy in '66. The best thing that Florida State could say from that era was the wide receiver award is named after one of our guys.
Sure.
Like, that's it. So there wasn't that inferiority complex. Now, I think that between the three schools, it shifts, depends on, like, it's like they pass it around.
Yeah.
Who's got the inferiority complex in this couple years.
But there is a very, there's a very specific type of inferior. It's like a historical one. And I feel like I've been with you now 2 episodes and I'm about to kind of bag on Aggie again.
No, but A&M has it with Texas.
They do. They
have it with Texas. And we're going to talk about them, I'm sure. I guess their rivalry's coming back, but at the end of the show. But yeah, I do think A&M has one. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And now they have one to the rest of the SEC too. Like it's there.
It's a really weird dynamic
because they haven't, and again, they haven't and their fans, I think, had justifiably be frustrated with I think I said this with Roy yesterday, the care to output quotient at A&M is higher than everywhere else. It is, they care more than everybody cares in everything. Everything. And the one thing they care about the most, football, is the one that does not give them, that meet their care, their love appropriately.
Do you know you're a television and movie buff. Mm-hmm. When I think about A&M, Texas, or Auburn, Alabama, I think about a scene from Mad Men when Don is riding down the elevator with one of his ad guys. I think, or Rosenberg may be his name. And this guy's mad because Don stole his idea, and he's just going on a rant, and he tells him, I feel sorry for you. And Don listens to the whole thing, and the elevator dings, and he walks out and says, I don't think about you at all. That's how I feel. That's what that seems like, right? Like Aggie or Auburn maybe has this really fiery, we're going to really show them and tell them. And Bama and Longhorn is just kind of like, we don't think about you at all. Is that inaccurate?
I think Texas thinks about A&M more than they would admit. And it didn't happen until they went to the SEC. That's when it happened.
Okay.
That's when it happened. Before it was yes, on November 26th or 27th every year, we're going to play you, but we also have someone we care about a little bit more.
Right.
And that's Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Now, Texas does have an inferiority complex to Oklahoma, no matter what they say.
They do.
They absolutely do.
Is there a school in the country that doesn't have an inferiority complex?
No, there's one, maybe Alabama doesn't.
Yeah.
Because, again, they've had the 2 greatest coaches of all time, but,
everybody's got someone.
Georgia feels inferior to Alabama. LSU feel like everybody in the SEC probably has it with Alabama to some degree.
Yeah.
Florida feels it right now for Georgia terribly, because Georgia has lapped them twice over now.
Yeah.
And
by the way, note from yesterday, I had no idea Kirby Smart spent $3 million more than everyone else recruiting.
Yeah.
Boy,
it was one of those
staggering.
I couldn't believe that. It's like he's like, okay, well, who's second? All right, $3 million.
Yeah.
Can we get to 3 million?
Yeah.
And no one was like, you think that's necessary? So I found it was one of the things that was really surprising.
Yeah.
I saw I will compare it to a thing that has nothing to do with sports.
Good.
But the American military spends $850 million more per year than China.
Okay.
We spend more money than the second, maybe even more than, it might even be $8 billion. We have whatever we find out that other people spend, we're just no, we're going to. Yeah. And then you can ask, are you going to use all that stuff? I hope not. But we've got it in case it happens.
There you go.
That's the attitude.
That's a better analogy.
That's Kirby Smart right now. Do you really need it? No, but if I have it, if I need it, I've got it.
Better safe than sorry.
So you have it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're going to ask each other questions this time.
Okay.
I've got some new ones for you.
Okay.
I might even ask you some of the ones I asked Royden yesterday.
Okay.
But
if we get around to best football movie of all time, I feel like there was a noticeable omission yesterday.
Okay, good. Well, we might start off that one.
Okay.
That's coming up next. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
Welcome back to the Triple Option here on 365 Sports. Paul Catalina, Chris Allman alongside today. His second go in the chair.
That's right, veteran.
Yeah. Now, I might replace you for a day next week with a friend of yours, Steven Simcox, if he's available.
That would be a dramatic upgrade.
I mean, we'll see. Steven's got big shoes to fill.
One of the more intelligent, wiser, and funnier people I know. The two of you guys together.
So,
gold.
We've not gotten down to scheduling brass tacks with him, but I might have to do that today. So
okay.
He's got like 7 kids now. All of a sudden, it just kind of happened for him really fast.
He also has a job, and he might need to ask his boss for the time off.
That's true. That's right.
And that boss is me.
Okay.
And he's more than welcome to come on over.
Yeah. But anyway, so this is our getting to know you segment, our question segment.
Yeah.
I have opened it up to you to ask me questions because I feel maybe it's not fair.
Okay.
That you've gotten grilled. You just following up on you and your brother are there's some tension that's been created. Because
there might be some disrepair in my family when I mentioned that I would save Jose Altuve in a fire over Craig Biggio and my brother. So what I did there was I strengthened my relationship with my 20-year-old nephew, Parker, who's a diehard Astros fan.
Yes.
What we did was create some real emotional distance between the two of us and my brother, who believes Craig Biggio is still Mr. Astro.
Well, he is Mr. Astro.
But he doesn't have 2 World Series rings. No. I guess he does, but they gave them to him just to be nice. Jose Altuve has 2 World Series rings that he earned. Yeah. An MVP and 5 batting titles.
Yes.
So my family will be okay. We got a few months till Christmas. We'll be good.
And I had to use him on the Immaculate Grid today because it was a tough, Houston Astro with a 300 career batting average.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot more people than just Jose Altuve.
Sure.
But I don't know what career batting average is. Like, some people, I looked up after it and I was like, this guy's got to have a 300 career batting average, 294. And you're like, oh, well, shouldn't have played when you're 45 years old, man.
I haven't done the grid today. The one that got me the other day was that Matt Cain or Tim Lincecum never won 20 games. That stumped me.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a giant 20-game winner.
Here's what gets me. Anything that has to do with the Diamondbacks that's not the 2001 team.
Yes. Every Diamondback, I'm like, they play in 01? Is it Kurt Schilling? Is Kurt Schilling the answer to this one?
Occasionally I'll think of somebody like Kareem Garcia. And I'm like, oh, good. That's someone. I know this basically, but like that's how. There can't be a college football Immaculate Grid yet, but there will be because of the transfer portal.
For sure.
One day we'll get the college football Immaculate Grid. It might be coaches just now.
Sure.
So you'd have to really know assistant coaches and coaching trees.
And whereas like Brad Hand is the answer for every square on baseball, it's just going to be JT Daniel. You're just going to be able to put JT Daniel in every single square.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I use Waco product Zach Duke quite a bit.
Okay, yeah. Zach Duke.
He fits a lot. Okay, so questions today.
Okay.
I'll ask you some of the ones we asked Royden.
Okay.
This is the glasses. This is the glasses segment.
Yeah. You got to put the glasses on.
This is the glasses segment. Makes me look really erudite and smart.
Yeah.
Okay. Greatest football movie of all time.
Yeah, this was a really good question yesterday. And I don't know Royden, but he seems to know his stuff. But The Program,
Oh, see, I mean, yes.
1993 classic. I know Garrett's on board with me here.
Absolutely the program.
Garrett, are we close to the same age?
I'm 38. I don't know how old
I'm
you are.
45. Okay.
We're there.
We're close to
Okay,
it.
so we all can appreciate the program. You probably were a little young watching it.
Yeah.
Maybe no rules at your house.
None whatsoever.
But the program was just the perfect early 90s football movie.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Friday Night Lights, my problem with that movie is the inaccuracies are too glaring to me. So, yeah, I think it's a fine movie, but to me the program is the best football movie of all time.
Yeah, I think I like ones that are either not cartoon, it's not cartoonish, like it is. I mean, they did have to take that scene out where they were laying down in traffic.
Yeah, because people were really
that was a big
doing it.
controversy in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody thought like, oh, this is not something we should do.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the program's great. James Caan.
Yeah.
Omar Epps, Halle Berry.
Yeah. Can't go wrong there.
Craig Schaefer at probably 33 years old.
He looked 33.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like,
But he
like,
was an alcoholic in the movie, so maybe that like played in like you want your guy who drinks too much to look a little
good
rough.
point. Boy, that was a Murderer's Row cast of like 90s young talent and then just really good looking 90s women. Christy Swanson was in it.
Yeah.
It's a solid. I hadn't even thought about that. I was just thinking about it from the football perspective.
So the guy, the famous character in that movie is Latimer.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's awesome. So I, in anticipation, because I'm a big superhero nerd,
Okay.
in anticipation of The Flash this summer, went back and watched both Michael Keaton Batman movies.
Yeah.
He plays Christopher Walken's son in Batman Returns, that same actor. And
Holy cow.
I hadn't watched it in a long time, and I didn't realize that he was doing, when I was a kid, I didn't realize that he was doing a walk-in the whole time. Dad, come on, let's go. That movie. But it wasn't bad. It was not a bad walk-in.
The Latimer character also kind of ruined my understanding of steroids. Like you don't take steroids right before the game and become awesome. That's not the way steroids work. But in that movie, he's like shooting up in the bathroom and then he goes out and becomes awesome. And I was like, oh, well, should I ever decide to do steroids? This is how it works. Later on, I discovered it's not at all how it works.
No, and don't do steroids.
And don't do steroids. Yeah, that was the other thing I learned.
Okay. All right. I may not know the answer to this with you, but I think I do. Because we've known each other for a very long time.
Very long time.
Almost 20 years now.
Yeah, 2005.
5.
Okay, I was going to say 4.
Yeah, 2004 or 5. Yeah, something like that.
Man, we go
yeah.
way back.
Yeah. Okay. What is a food or drink that everyone else likes but you don't get?
Wow. Okay, I feel like I'm going to have to hand over my native Texan card. I like barbecue, but dude who like is fluent in barbecue, I don't get it. I mean, I like it, but that's the most common like food I think that people make and eat that I'm like, it's meat.
You're not looking at bark.
No.
You're
And
not- yeah.
I can't tell you the difference between, I know they like lean and moist taste different, but I'm like, I don't care. Just whatever kind of meat you want to give me.
If it's good, it's good. You're fine.
What's yours?
Mine, I'm coffee. Like I'm coffee. I don't drink coffee. Like I don't like it. I understand other people do.
Yeah.
I do not understand the depths that people go to enjoying coffee. And I had to work in a coffee shop at one point in my life, in a bookstore I was working at, and it was a really hard thing for me because people will come up to you and ask you, what does this taste like? And I'd be like, look, man, it's peppermint mocha. It tastes like
Peppermint mocha.
and whatever mocha is.
Okay.
And, like when I had to do the training for that, like the coffee lady from Borders Books did not get me at all. We did not
jive?
We did not jive.
There wasn't
because
instant chemistry?
She's making me taste the stuff, and I'm just like, oh.
Okay,
So yeah, coffee is that way to me. I'm not going to rag anybody, but like it does, like with the depths that people go to barbecue, I do enjoy that a little bit. I'll go to places, I'm not going to maybe get too into the weeds, but I will say my father-in-law works for a company Martin's Barbecue in Nashville. And when I was there at Christmas, he took me back, and I was like talking to the guys, like cooking a whole pig at once on the smoker, and I was just covered in smoke and like talking to these guys, like, oh wow. So you guys just saw that sucker in half.
Yeah,
huh?
wow.
Wow.
It's really fascinating.
How long? Like, well, I just put this one on an hour ago, so 8 o'clock tonight he'll be done. And I'm like, it is 11:30.
Yeah. My first experience was my brother-in-law was like smoking meat, and he kept checking on its status on his phone.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, he's like, this has been cooking for 14 hours. I was like, I don't want to do anything for 14 hours. Mm-hmm. And so along those lines, I don't drink. Mm-hmm. So people that are like beer fanatics or
also me.
Yeah. I don't.
Yeah.
All beer tastes bad to me.
Yeah.
So I don't get that one.
Yeah.
I might revise my answer and actually, I didn't know we can count drinks. So let me say beer and whiskey.
Yeah, whiskey. I'm a very big whiskey aficionado and stuff.
Okay.
Jack and I have that in common. We do. I'm trying to bring him up in the ways of.
Is that why Jack just rolled in?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Look, Jack knows how to party. Jack, I'm sure had important things to do. Okay. Which college football player do you wish had infinite eligibility?
Okay, so genuinely, anytime I answer a question about a player, it's really going to be about just the pure enjoyment I had in watching them. And so I might say Dat Win from Texas A&M. Just the whole Dat Win story, the size. That was a phase in my life. I've mentioned having Aggie family. Mm-hmm. So those wrecking crew teams from the 80s and 90s, and I know Dat was early to mid 90s. Mm-hmm. But I might say Dat Win.
He was the soul of the wrecking crew. He was what you're really, yes.
Yeah. Now, if he can just do one play over and over, I'd say Quentin Coriat for the guy he killed against TCU.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say Quentin Coriat. But then from just a sentimental perspective, man, Reggie Bush was a lot of fun to watch play.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about you? Can I guess? Is it a Knoll?
No. It is an Aggie.
Okay, so it's not Chris Winkie.
No, like if you asked me which Knoll, I would say Peter Warwick.
I was going to say Peter Warwick.
Peter Warwick.
Give me the era on the Aggie.
Oh, very recently.
Johnny Manziel?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I had more fun watching his games.
Okay.
Because it was just, man, it was jazz.
Yeah,
like,
no.
It was, and that's the thing about Reggie Bush, Barry Sanders, Johnny Manziel, guys like that, where it's like, skeep up, like that's how they played. That's how they played.
That's jazz.
Yeah. And to some people that looks good, some people it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things, like I remember asking someone one time, because I'm not a fan of jazz in particular, like I appreciate certain artists,
right.
But sometimes you'll hear it and you're like, I don't know what's going on here. And then there's a guy in the background with like the hat that's like curled up, the fedora that curls up.
Yeah.
And he's got sunglasses that he wears like this. And
his name is like Styx or something.
Yeah, and he's just, and he gets it.
Sure.
Like when you see one of those guys, you just enjoy it. That's what it is. It is.
Yes.
And they're kind of making it up as they go. Those are the guys I like. That's what Peter Warwick was. I mean, you stop on a dime, like watch everybody run past you.
Yeah.
And then take off.
I think Peter Warwick will be, especially as we get further away from his era, he is criminally underrated. Yeah. I think it's
because of the NFL. Like the NFL hurts guys like Peter Warwick.
Yeah.
He didn't do well in the NFL. He's probably playing in the wrong era.
Yeah.
Just those kind of things. It just didn't work out for him. And that's the case for most people.
Yeah.
That go to the NFL.
Yeah.
That doesn't work out the same way for everybody. But
from that same era, Michael Vick was a heck of a lot of fun. I'm sure he struck fear into you in that national championship game.
I was at that game.
Yeah.
And from the second quarter on, I vividly remember it because that's when I sobered up. I was in New Orleans all day long, then had to go to that game. So,
why is this game starting in the second quarter? What's going on?
I was almost 20 years old, and in New Orleans, I don't know about now. I mean, because now when I go, I don't need to be carded.
Sure,
but. No, that was the first place I ever went where no one asked me for an ID.
Yeah, I don't think Law and Order when I think New Orleans.
No, but I remember walked that day, like sitting down. We went to eat lunch, and I sat down at this restaurant and I ordered. They're like, well, what do you have to drink? I was like, I'll have a Coke. And he's like, with what? And I was like, what? He's like, come on. And so I just ordered it, just waiting for him to come and check my ID, and it never happened. And then. You could see the look, like the people with me, like, oh, it's on. It's on.
You just kept doing this.
And you walk down the street and somebody's like, would you like a hurricane for $4? You're like, I have $4. Here. Yeah.
Woo.
So
I bet watching Michael Vick play when you're slightly inebriated is a real experience.
Oh, it was. And so Peter Warwick, like Michael Vick took over that game in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And then Peter Warwick took it over at the end. Very famously scoring the winning touchdown. Went to Coach Batten and go, do you want to win this game? Throw me the ball. And so he got on the thing and told Mark Richt, it's like, hey, get Warwick the ball. He said he's going to score. And they're like, okay.
I wish I could be that confident about something.
I know, I can't.
God, I can't do that.
Yeah. I really do. But yeah, so like those guys those are the ones that are most like Bo Jackson to me. Like he was more just pure athleticism.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like when God decided he was going to make like certain people more athletic, that might have been some of his best work.
Yeah, for sure.
Like as far as, okay, this guy can literally do anything you throw at him physically.
Yeah. There's a lot of, some of these opinions are formed by not really like having watched them live, but you'll watch old tapes or you'll watch a 30 for 30. Like Marcus Dupree, like I'm sure Smokey would have some really good insight into Marcus Dupree running the ball. Herschel Walker, guys from the 80s like that. I mean, even in an era when the ball wasn't thrown all over the field, Tim Brown, when he was at Notre Dame, was an absolute dude. Mm-hmm. And so, and then, I mean, Vince Young and Robert Griffin III both, like, Vince, I know he did a lot more than just that 06 Rose Bowl, but that in itself was
that whole
amazing.
Season.
Yeah.
The second half against Oklahoma State where they were dead to rights, and then the plan was like, what play we're going to run? We're going to run Vince?
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, what do you got? I've got Vince.
Yeah, okay. Right or left? Vince right, Vince left. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, Vince do something is the play.
Yeah.
We're just going to pull off the throttle and see what happens.
Yeah,
and it works.
exactly.
All right, last question for this segment. What product would you be the ideal pitch man for?
Chips and salsa.
Chips and salsa?
Yeah. So whereas I don't understand people and their bit about barbecue, or I am an expert, a connoisseur on chips and salsa.
All right, let me ask you this.
Okay.
I don't like a thin chip that doesn't have a lot of tensile strength.
Okay.
It bothers me.
Okay.
Because when you get into like salsa or queso or whatever, if I dip just by holding it, it falls off.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I like a medium to firm chip.
Okay. I'm a little hypnotized by the word tensile. So I'm going to need a second if someone could look that up for me. So to me, the two premier chips.
Okay.
Wait, am I allowed to say brand names?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So
look, and with why not get a sponsorship?
Sure, yeah. So if anyone from El Milagro is listening, the El Milagro chip comes in a clear bag that you can't open it. Mm-hmm. It's just a mess to open. And then the Julio's tortilla chip.
Julio's tortilla chip.
Yes.
Yes, I like Julio's.
Yes. Those are the two premier chips.
Yeah.
So I'll eat tortilla chips breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't know what it is, if it's just the starchy, crunchy. So I am the ideal pitch man for chips and salsa, but largely chips. What about you?
Oh, me?
Glasses?
No, probably not. Although I did get these from Warby Parker, I think. So there you go. So
that's a good brand.
Yeah, absolutely. So Warby Parker, please.
There we go.
Please sponsor us. No, this is gonna sound weird. I don't mean it to sound gross, but bidets and Japanese toilets.
Okay.
I'm like it's a hill I'm ready to die on that we have been denied far too long.
Okay. This is not a conversation I thought I'd have when I woke up today. I'm aware of the bidet.
There's one in there, by the way, in the bathroom.
Is that what that is?
Yes.
I almost pulled that to flush it yet Monday because I didn't know what it was. That is good to know.
Yes.
Okay, and it just washes up.
Yes.
Okay.
Look, here's the deal.
Again, not a conversation I thought we were going to have today.
Chris, if you walked outside right now, you know what? I'll give you a better example, maybe more. You've seen Back to the Future, correct?
I'm a connoisseur of that as well.
Okay. If you were Biff in that movie, and your car hit the manure truck and it dumped all over you, and then I came to you and said, here is a thin piece of paper. Clean yourself up. Okay. You would be understandably indignant to me about the situation you find yourself in. So I ask you, why is that different for any other part of your body?
I mean, you can have multiple layers when you're wiping your behind.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now you got me thinking about this.
I'm telling you, look, if you are particularly like Tushy Bidet, I'm calling for you. I would be a fantastic sponsor for you. Or if you're a Japanese toilet company, those things are quite expensive.
Okay.
But in the lounge on my way to Hawaii last year, I got to use one, and it was
Okay.
like, honestly, I looked it up on my, walking out of the bathroom, looked it up on my phone to see how much it was.
Put it on the registry.
But it was like $12,000. So I was like, well, no.
Okay.
I'm not going to do that. So, but yes.
This
it's
is good to know.
It is something we need to do in America.
Okay, because I have a 3.5-year-old. Never had any issues changing diapers. Never thought that was gross. But now my little boy he's potty trained, but he's still learning. So I have to go wipe his rear end. And I don't love that.
Yeah.
So maybe the bidet is the answer.
Just telling you right now.
Okay.
For Tushy, great deals all the time. Between like $75, $100. Great thing you can get.
Okay.
So
I'm glad that my broadcasting career, this
Got
is
you
on
this
film.
point?
This is on.
This
This is I'll always be able to look back and see the peak of my broadcasting career,
Yes.
which was this conversation.
Again, if I can be the guy who turns the tide in America for this, where they're just everywhere.
The godfather of the bidet.
Yeah, I would love to be the pitchman who convinces everybody that this is where to go.
Okay.
Like that's what you need to do.
Okay.
So people are weirded out by it, but I don't care. It's important. I think going forward.
No, I'm in. I'm really glad I didn't accidentally use it when I was standing at the
it would've
urinal yesterday.
Hit you right in the face.
Yeah.
It would hit you right in the face.
Dodged a bullet there.
All right. When we come back, we have a shorter last segment, but which rivalry that's dying do you wish was permanently installed, or could it be already dead?
Yeah.
Kind of dead.
I'm
We're
in.
going to do that. All right. This is the triple option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
Welcome back to the triple option here on 365 Sports. Paul Catalina alongside Chris Allman. Last segment of the show today, and the last time you'll see Chris this week.
Maybe ever.
No, you'll be back. Our first review of the show was Chris Allman is a star.
Well, I doubt that. I think you're
Yes.
just telling me that to
No,
make me feel
Kim
better.
Coulter. I'll tell you. I know they actually
It's legit.
said it.
It's legit.
Yeah, Kim. Yeah,
Well, I don't know who Kim Coulter is, but
great guy, Kim Coulter.
Kim Coulter. I'll buy
Yeah,
you.
big Longhorn, or not Longhorn, the Texas Tech fan. He's probably like me now. Big Texas Tech fan.
Hey, well,
Texas Tech guy.
Texas Tech. They got a phenomenal. I know they got great head coaches, but Matt Breyer, one of their assistant basketball coaches, a former Belton High School standout.
Okay.
Covered him when he was 15 years old. He's a stud. So enjoy that, Kim.
Oh, yeah. I know that both their head coaches in football and basketball quite well. Grant
I bet you
McCaslin, I've
do.
known a very long time.
Yeah.
And Joey McGuire, they're both friends of the show. So
They've all
yeah.
They've all made stops here.
Yes.
In the River City. Is that what we are? No, that's San Antonio.
Yeah. I think River City is like a common, like San Antonio is like legitimately the River City because the city was built you used to walk along the river.
Is it okay to
Everything's-
talk about the fact that we're in Waco? I know we're a national.
Yeah,
you're a
yeah, no,
national.
yeah, we're Waco. I'm
okay.
proud of it. Yeah.
Okay, great. I don't want to.
People know.
If I need to pretend like we're in the Northeast, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, one day we'll just do a show and we'll just pretend we're from Boston. Be
Okay, great.
be like college football.
Just do 45 minutes of Bruins talk.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll do that. Or just get me on the Red Sox. I'll just do a character where
Yeah.
I
A Southie.
unleash my pain every time. But okay, football rivalries that are dying. I mean, there's a lot in the Pac-12 that are dying.
Yeah.
The Big 12 that are gone now. There's one that's coming back. A&M in Texas is coming back. I'm excited about that. I loved that game growing up. I'm excited it's going to be back. If for no other reason, then we can stop asking about when they're going to
is it
play each
coming
other
back?
again.
Yeah.
But there are I don't feel like outside of Bedlam, and I do think Oklahoma State fans have made their peace with it. There's not a lot of rivalries that are dying in the Big 12 that I think people are that mad about.
Yeah. I work with an Oklahoma State grad who is not doing well with that going away. I think if I could bring one back, this is one that I guess is not currently scheduled to come back, because I would imagine Texas Arkansas is about to.
Yeah.
Right. It's about to be rebooted.
Yeah.
But I think probably Oklahoma, Nebraska. I think I would love to come back.
They played that the last couple years.
They did.
And it's just, I think that needs to be your permanent out of conference rival.
I agree. But I would also like to say with any of these, what I want brought back with them is not just, I don't want a kumbaya game played. I want some heat in it.
Yeah.
I want these teams, I want Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler, like, why'd you go for 2?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't go for 3.
Yeah.
Like, I want hate. And I know we're probably not allowed to say stuff like that anymore, and we should want everyone to be nice and sterile and serene. But I want Oklahoma, Nebraska back, and I want Tom Osborne and Barry Switzer.
Yeah.
And, I want Bob Devaney and Barry Switzer. I want that kind of stuff back where there's a lack of civility to things.
Yeah.
And so even Nebraska, Colorado, those were really good games when I was a kid. Colorado's Bill McCartney powerhouse years. So I'd love to see those come back. But since Aggie and Longhorn is coming back, since Texas, Arkansas is coming back, really probably those. I'd like to see Nebraska get back to being Nebraska, and I'd like to see those rivalry games.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'd like to, of the teams that are I think it's kind of a bummer that USC and Stanford is going to be over.
Yeah.
That one is a bummer. I know Stanford hasn't been that good recently, and really until last year, neither is USC.
Right.
But that was a really, really good.
Yeah.
UCLA and Stanford is a really big rivalry.
Yeah, and I would even take, I know that Harbaugh and Carroll were not bitter enemies, but there was some real tension there, and that made that's the kind of stuff I want to see back.
Yeah, exactly. So those I'm going to miss a little bit. I think that I'm going to miss Texas Tech and Texas playing.
Yeah.
I really am. I will say for your Oklahoma State friend, you can say this. If it makes you feel better, Oklahoma State is so far behind in that rivalry.
Yeah.
Mike Gundy's only won the game 3 times. 3 times.
Yeah.
And he's been there for almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
So, or maybe he has been. I think he's 3-16-1, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, we conveniently left OSU out of our inferiority complex conversation earlier. They for sure have one with OU.
No, and it's hard not to when one school has been that's what the problem is. Now Texas doesn't have the pelts on the wall that Oklahoma or Alabama do.
Right.
They have enough to where when one school is kind of can be the class of college football, and you're trying to be that, and you just can't.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. Yeah, I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss, I'm going to miss Bedlam, just because it is an interstate rivalry.
Yeah.
Look, if the ACC breaks up and Florida, what I'm worried about, as a Florida State fan, is if conference realignment happens so much to where Florida State doesn't play Miami and Florida in the same year every year, where they wind up in a conference with Florida after leaving the conference with Miami, and then Miami doesn't go with them, and it's not every year. I'm going to miss I'm going to miss that, because Florida and Miami play each other once a decade, home and home.
Yeah.
Because Florida is afraid to play Miami.
Really?
That's bottom line. They shouldn't be anymore, but
they used to be.
But when it came down, when Miami got really good, Florida was no, we're not gonna take this L.
Yeah,
we're just not going to.
Right.
And so they quit scheduling when they used to play them a lot more often.
Yeah.
When Miami was an automatic W, they loved playing them.
Yeah, I bet.
And then all of a sudden, Michael Irvin scores 4 touchdowns on you, and you're like, I don't.
You're let's rethink this.
Let's just when we get enough letters and emails, we'll schedule a home and home 5 years out.
Yeah.
And then everybody can enjoy that one, and then we can be done with it. So
in terms of, it's a little underrated, but in terms of hostility, Pitt, West Virginia, I think.
Yeah, the fact that we've gotten that the last couple of years just needs to be that needs to be something that they're right there.
Yeah.
They're both and they're the same level of school. They're the same kind of similar histories and all that.
Yes.
They need to play each other. And their fans love it when they play each other.
I know. But again, to me, there's got to be some heat to it. I don't want
Pitt and Penn State would be another great one to bring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
See, I bet that one had some real juice in the 70s, like the
Yeah.
Johnny Majors, Joe
Yeah.
Paterno era.
Yeah.
So there's a few. Mine are probably regional because they're ones we grew up with in the Southwest Conference or at least the Big Eight just to our north. But more than anything, I want the heat back. I was okay with Coach Brawls and Coach Patterson not liking each other.
Oh,
you know?
that's great.
I loved that. And maybe I shouldn't say that, but I just did. They're gladiators in the arena. Entertain me. I don't care how you do it.
No, I like, look, there was, between Bowden and Spurrier when I was in college, they really did respect each other and I think like each other.
Yeah.
But there was heat there. Like there was legitimate heat. And right now, like the hatred still exists between those schools.
Right.
But I don't think because everybody's been so mediocre recently that the current student body understands it.
Yeah.
Which then takes away from it.
Yeah.
Like if you have a mediocre rivalry forever, you can, it's just kind of, it's a dud. So
Sure.
Yeah. If in the 90s, those Florida State's games against Miami and Florida affected the national title hunt for
Every year.
For every, like, not just for them.
Yeah. No,
those
for
two schools,
everyone.
for everybody in the country. Like
Yeah.
those two games affected like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then you throw in some years, they were also playing Notre Dame.
Yeah.
93, they lost to Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame lost to Boston College, and that's how they wound up in the back in the national championship game. So that's what I want. Like, I want rivalry games that, again, affect, like, Alabama and LSU is one of my favorite ones right now because most years it's going to have that national effect of this has a ripple effect huge here.
Yeah. Do Michigan and Notre Dame, they don't have a regularly scheduled contest right now, right?
No.
That one, I thought about that one, but again, it's been a really long time, in my opinion, since Notre Dame has. I just feel like they both haven't been great at the same time in a long time.
The only one I would say Notre Dame has regularly now is USC.
Yeah.
Like USC, that's a great rival is theirs. And everybody just loves playing Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They love to play Notre Dame.
Sure, yeah.
Because they love to hate them.
Yeah.
So they're everybody's rivalry game when you walk in. So their big one to me would have to be USC. I know that
I
there's
think
other,
so.
they've played Ohio State the last couple of years, and that's been fun to watch. But
that's not a rivalry.
That's not a rivalry in the sense of like they're not playing all the time.
Right.
I know if they played Purdue, that would be a big deal because they're both in Indiana.
Yeah.
But Notre Dame plays Miami. It's a big rivalry game, right? Notre Dame would play anybody. It would be a big rivalry game. But USC is really the only one now that, especially since they played 5 or 6 ACC games, that's their consistent rival.
Isn't it funny that rivalries can be born out of, I know we got to go pretty quick. Rivalries can be born out of playing each other for 100 years, or you have the Miami Notre Dame rivalry that, boy, those Holtz, Jimmy Johnson
and convicts,
teams, and like there's still hate. And that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
The rivalries they can flash up out of nowhere and linger for years.
Yeah. No, they're like, I don't like Ohio State because they beat FSU a couple times.
Yeah.
We've hardly played them, but when we have, we've lost. So I don't like them.
But it's not a rivalry?
It's not a rivalry.
Right.
But I have that but I would, if it happened to be one, if it turned into one real quick, I'd be like, oh, I've been on this since 91.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
It's Astros Rangers. I don't think that's a rivalry, but I think the Rangers are spare and I don't like them. So
it eventually will be.
Nah.
The problem for you is, and us, we did not grow. They were not in the same division when we grew up.
Right.
They were not in the same league when we grew up. So that's one of the things that just has to build over time.
Right.
So
yeah. Well, as long as Marcus Simeon's there, I'll hate them.
Yeah, it's weird. One of the things that we'll have to get on the petty, who can you? I have a list, but there are certain people like coaches, players that I can just not get behind.
Yeah.
And no matter how good they are, I just hope that they're never traded to my team so I don't have to let go of it.
Yeah. I think you and I could fill up a full hour if we just wanted to do Aaron Boone for an hour.
Yeah.
I think we could, and I'd be happy to.
At least you've never had to smile through your teeth at him.
That's
person.
true. Oh, that's right. I forgot about you meeting him. You texted me about that.
It's a hard day, man.
Man. My only experience like that is having a phone conversation with Scott Podsednik and just telling him that he ruined Brad Lidge's career. And we had a nice chuckle, but I still don't like him for what he did to the Astros.
He's great. Scotty Paz is a great guy, too.
Yeah, he is. No, he's a nice
guy,
but he still took Brad Lidge deep in the 05 World Series, and I just can't forgive him for that.
No. Well, yeah, I think that was a building. Because if you remember the series before,
Yeah, I do,
I think
vividly.
Albert Pujols took a lot of Brad Lidge's soul. With
His
him.
soul, his entire soul. It exited through the glass out in deep left field with Pujols' home run ball.
If Pujols dies before Brad Lidge is going to feel something. He's not going to understand what it is. He's just going to be walking around going, I feel different. Like part of me is back.
It's like a weight.
I haven't
is
felt
gone.
this since 2005. I don't know since before that day. So anyway, but that's, well, here we go. This is the triple option. It's 2:00. It's time to go. Chris, we'll see you next week, buddy.
Can't wait.
All right. See you, everybody.